How many people will understand Christianity but not understand that Christianity is nothing more than a retelling of the same age-old stories that have come down through time? As a matter of fact, the Bible is not called the greatest collection of facts ever assembled. It's called the greatest story ever told. And the reason why it's the greatest story is because to do a little homework, you're going to find out it's the oldest story ever told. As a matter of fact, it's the only story ever told. It's called astrotheology, the study and the worship of the heavens. So anyway, the heavens, now if you go out at nighttime and look up at the sky, what are you looking at? So you're looking at the sky. What's another name for the sky? Another word for the sky is heaven. Well, that's where the sun's at. At 12 noon, the sun's high in heaven. So therefore, they said that God's Son was in heaven. Of course, they never believed that when they died, they would go to heaven with God's Son. I mean, at least they knew that much. But at 12 noon, the sun was the most high. Consequently, they said that God's Son was 12 when he was in God's temple. God's temple is, of course, the heavens, and at 12 noon, he's in the temple. So that's why he was 12 when he was in the temple. And that since everlasting life came from God's Son, the sun was round. It was a circle in the sky. So the ancients saw life as a round circle, an endless circle of life pictured in the sun. So that was the way they kept time then, was on a round calendar. Today we call them like a sundial or that kind of thing. That's where they came from, the round calendars. As a matter of fact, the Aztecs and the Mayas and the ancient Mexicans kept the round sun calendars. Now the sun calendars were in Egypt were round, and they were divided by 12 parts, just as all sun calendars are, 12 parts of 12 months. And each one of the months was called a helper to the sun, because it helped the sun do his job on earth in that particular month. And later on, those particular months were called houses, because as in the Babylonian scheme of things, they began to develop what was called astrology, so that each one of the months then became a house. And so therefore the sun, God's Son, the light of the world, who is our salvation because he is risen, had 12 helpers, or 12 apostles, right? And then the sun also enters each one of those houses of the Zodiac, or each one of those constellations of the Zodiac, at the 30th degree. And it leaves at the 33rd degree. Therefore, they said that the sun begins his ministry at 30 and dies at 33. This is a very, very old. As a matter of fact, there are many books that trace at least 15 other major religions that have used the sun, God's Son, as the light of the world, has used the sun in the same context, in the same religious philosophy that was developed for the worship of God's Son. And there is at least 15 other major religions. And as a matter of fact, one of the books right off the top of my head was 16 Crucified Saviors by Percy Graves, a great book for that kind of a study. There's just so much more I have in mind, but I was wondering about the time here.
Oh no, we're doing okay.
Okay, well, I'd like to keep going because there's so many interesting little points that I feel that's valuable to bring out in relation to the subject of religion and the one that we're dealing with today.
Okay. At this point, I think this is a good spot to take a brief musical break, and then we'll come back and pick up on that, because we're going to eventually lead into
we're going to lead into some very controversial stuff.
This all leads to white supremacy.
She took my hand, shine a
And welcome back to KPFK 90.7, listener-sponsored radio on your dial. This is your host, Marcus Lewis, in a special edition of Family Tree, filling in for Hamilton Cloud and Spectrum, who's on away on a big assignment. And we're speaking here with Jordan Maxwell, who is a teacher in ancient sciences, and we're dealing with the subject of the origins of Christianity. And we just got into the development of the sundial and the calendars. And, of course, the Christianity has always labeled these ancient religions as being pagan, which gives a negative connotation.
Right.
But
As
we
a
can
matter of
pick
fact,
up from that.
Marcus, the word pagan actually means someone who lives in the country, a mountain dweller, or someone who lives outside of a city is a pagan. And that name was given to people who lived up in the mountains because in Rome, when Christianity was adopted, it was thought to be later, once it was fully developed, to be a sophisticated. Since Caesar becomes a Christian, everybody could be a Christian now, and so therefore it became the state religion. Therefore it was now in high style to be a Christian. Consequently, you would be very intelligent if you were a Christian. You were modern if you were a Christian in Rome once it was accepted fully, and therefore it became the thing to be, is a Christian. Now, of course, people out in the hills, the farmers and the poor people out on the outsides of Rome that have lived the same way for 10,000 years, well, those were pagans because they didn't understand the new understanding of things. So it was a disparaging remark about poor people, people of the soil, people who were farmers, people who didn't know all of this high-fangled, new, fancy, new religious thing that Rome's come up with. They were just people. And the people were the poor working-class people, and they were called pagans. That's where the word came from. Anybody who wasn't in with the in crowd in Rome with the new religion was a pagan. So we'll dispense with that word. Anyway, we're getting back to the, excuse me, the sundial. The sundial was, of course, round because the sun was round, and so they kept track of the months because it was divided into 12 equal parts. Excuse me. And while this might be, I want to say this, while this might be just dry religious philosophy being discussed, it has a motive at the end, and so I caution you don't to disregard this conversation too quickly because it's going to get very interesting soon. Getting back to the sundial, the calendar was divided into 12 parts, or 12 equal parts, or the 12 helpers of the sun, and that's where we get the 12 apostles of the sun. And of course, they noticed something interesting. The ancient people were very observant, and not like us. We're too busy to observe anything. But the ancient people had time to observe, and they found out something that it's interesting in the winter, or what we call the winter solstice on our December 22nd, the sun had kept moving. Each day the sun kept moving a little small piece on the sundial. You could tell the sun was moving each day by watching the sundial. And as the sun was moving further and further south, bringing on our winter, they would notice that it kept going further and further on the sundial until it stopped. And then they said, thank God the thing has stopped, because if it keeps going, it's going to be gone completely. Okay? So it stopped, and it stopped on December 22nd. And they noticed something, that for 3 days, on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, every morning, it was still sitting in the same place. It had not moved any further and hadn't come back this way any. So they figured anything that don't move must be dead. So they said the sun must be dead. So, and then on the 25th, they noticed that it moved the opposite way, 1 degree, so that means the thing's alive now. So therefore, December 25th was the sun's birthday. And that they said, but before that, God's son had died and been dead for 3 days.
Right. Of course, we just had a big celebration on the son being born again.
Absolutely.
On the 25th.
Yes, matter of fact, Christmas. I saw him today. Yeah, I saw him today. And so when you take that round calendar now with 12 individual months, or 12 helpers or apostles, and you divide the now this is difficult to explain over the air, but I'm trying. If you divide the circle from the winter solstice, which is the middle of winter, down through exact right through the circle, and the bottom, which would be the summer solstice, then you